I would encourage people in the state of Florida to do their research because there are certain companies that are more notorious for not paying out than others. And there is specifically one that has a massive share of policies in the state that has been notorious for not paying out any claims or a fractional amount in the past 4 years. And they continue to seek out a strong share of the Florida market. And that remains to be disgusting to me, because if you're not going to pay out and accept the risk that you're taking, you are just trying to profit out of greed and not actually fulfill your requirement as an insurance company.
Welcome back to another episode of the Estate of Wealth podcast for your weekly dose of market updates and expert insights. I'm Barney Villa, and alongside me, as always, is Aaron Levitt. And today we have Stacy and I'm going to pronounce your last name wrong. Staginga. Okay,
I was close.
Yeah, we're close. Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Stacey. We appreciate you. Yeah. All right. Why don't you tell our guests a little about yourself, what you do, where you're from, and then we'll ask you some quirky questions and get into some hot topic news. So we'll start with who are you, where are you from, and what do you do?
Yeah, so I am trying to be a retired nurse. I live in Denver, Colorado currently. I invest in real estate so that I can leave nursing. I'm in a very interesting point of my investing career. I've been in small multifamily for the past 4 years, and I'm currently working very hard to reposition myself to go into large multifamily. So that looks like potentially selling off some of my cash cow babies and putting them into bigger deals for many good reasons. So very exciting, but very much at a pivot point.
And you're in the military as well, too? Did you say that?
Yes, I retire though in October.
You're done.
20 years. Yeah, 20 years of service. Very excited to have my freedom back.
Wow. Well, I get, as always, thank you for your 20 years of service. That's incredible. Did you enjoy your time there?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. But it just gets to a point where you sacrifice so much for the military that I'm just very ready to have full control of my life again.
Yeah, absolutely. So you live here in Denver, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your properties are in Tampa?
Tampa, Florida. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And then Aaron has properties in Tampa, Florida, and we're going to get into some insurance issues here in a little bit with all the hurricanes going on down there. But you guys are pretty close to each other, right? You're like one town away?
One bridge away.
30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Depending on traffic.
Yeah, I've actually never been to Tampa myself. I've been to Orlando and Miami, and my wife's parents are from Port St. Lucie, or live in Port St. Lucie now, but never on the West Coast. Yeah,
and it's interesting. I only say bridge because I think that's the terminology people outside of Florida would use. However, Stacey, I'm sure you're familiar. When you're inside of Florida, these are considered a causeway instead of a bridge. So it's a short causeway drive from Tampa into Clearwater, about a 30-minute transit.
Mm-hmm. I also want to mention that Stacey has a great Instagram channel. I've been following you for a little bit now, and I think you post some great content. And you guys all should get on there. I'll just plug her. What is your Instagram handle?
Invest4freedom_RN.
Love it. Yeah, because you're actually talking about nursing a lot on there as well, too, right?
Mm-hmm. And I give all of my real estate investing education away for free, just trying to inspire anybody to get started.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that's super neat. All right, let's jump into some of these quirky questions that we like to ask here. All right, starting with question number 1. If you could live in any fictional home from a movie or TV show, which one would it be and why?
I chose Whoville from Dr. Seuss because I previously lived in San Diego, and you can see so much of where he got his inspiration from in La Jolla. So it brings me a lot of joy, both in real life and in his books. So I would live in Whoville.
I love that. And I definitely asked you this off camera, but what's your favorite Dr. Seuss book?
I don't know. I guess it'll be the Cat in the Hat. I loved all of them except for Yeah, the green eggs and ham. I was like, what is this green eggs thing? But yeah, his books are so good.
Love it.
Now, let me ask you this. Is it one of those things where you're kind of walking around or, living there in San Diego and, able to read the books and kind of see his vision come to life, I guess, or understand the surroundings?
Yeah, you can literally go to La Jolla Cove and there's like a Dr. Seuss swing. And they have like parts of his books written on the fence, and you can just see like
Super
where so
cool.
much of the inspiration from plants and the buildings just so much came from. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've visited San Diego, but I did not know that. I'll have to keep that on the list to go explore.
It's called The Secret Swing.
Ooh. Okay. Now is the Grinch Dr. Seuss?
Yeah, that's from Whoville. He lives up in the cave.
Yes.
Cave though. He's at the top of the mountain. We're in separate areas.
Yes.
You can't come into Whoville when I live there.
That's fair. So, but I think that, honestly, thinking about it a little more, that might be my favorite one because he has such a heartwarming transformation, and he falls in love with Whoville after having this, deep isolation, in the mountains. I always thought that was super cool because, like,
Barney, are you declaring that The Grinch is your favorite Christmas movie right now? Is that what's happening?
No, it's Die Hard for sure. But no, that's definitely my favorite Dr. Seuss movie for sure, or Dr. Seuss book. Yeah, sure. Because I like the transformation. So I'm saying, because like it's funny to call someone a Grinch, but like that's what happened. He became that heartwarming loving person that donated it all back after that amazing transformation he had. So anyways,
I think that was all because of Lucy Lou, if I remember correctly.
Right,
Lucy. Yes.
Yeah, because I've definitely
some cute little blonde girl.
Yeah, I think it's Lucy. I think you're right because I remember the Jim Carrey version probably the most. But that one just stands out in my head as a great one. I don't know. That's definitely classic. All right, let's keep rolling here. On to the next question. Imagine you're a real estate superhero, which you are. Let's reference that. Everyone who comes to the show is absolutely a real estate superhero. Where are we? Imagine you're a real estate superhero. What would your superpower be, and how would you use it to close deals?
I'm going to go with, whether people think this is a superpower or not, I do. Negotiation.
Ooh, I love it.
I became really good at this, both actually from nursing, but then also use it in real estate to be extremely successful. And I have gotten my properties because of my ability to negotiate, connect to people. Real estate is very much a people industry. And I think negotiation and relating to people, because also people think negotiation is meant for you to get more. I believe that it should be a 50-50 transaction. Both sides are winning. So understanding their pain points and making sure it's a win-win is the best way to be successful, and is a superpower for sure.
Yeah, no, I love you. You point out two really good things, and that last one you pointed out, I think most people don't get. You're absolutely correct. People think it's about winning, an argument, and I think negotiating is more about coming together on an agreed, because I always have to remind people, like, remember, the goal is to do the deal. like do the deal, get it done. Like, it's not to like back out or be a stick in the mud about things. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think most people quite understand that, and they just stay, and it's like, well, do you want to sell this? But anyways, I digress. And then your other point was really great as well too. And I think Aaron and I were discussing this, because as a superpower, as a sales tactic, I think I love how you said that you drew almost inspiration from being a nurse as well too, because Aaron and I have talked about this a lot. I think the reason why we're good at negotiation and sales as well is because we come from the hospitality industry, where I think being a nice and genuine person is probably the easiest way to get ahead in a negotiation. Is just being polite, and being respectful, and understanding the other person's point of view, rather than just getting an argument and getting mad over it. Can you describe any experiences or situations or kind of like sparks that you've taken from the nursing industry that have translated easily to sales or negotiating?
So I mean, like in nursing, convincing people that don't always want to be healthy or do the things they need to do to be healthy. And so you just really have to explain to them, like, here's why it's important, both for you and for your future. So just making sure people understand the full benefit of something they might not want to do, and relating it back to their pain points. Like, I see you really enjoy and love your family. In order for that to continue to happen in this way and not spend all your time in a hospital, these are the things you need to do to prevent that. And so then the same thing with real estate, like, oh, you want to retire, you don't want a massive tax burden. Let me help you, and here's why. And then it becomes a win-win.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, because I think I was mentioning that Aaron used to manage a spaghetti factory, right?
Don't you dare. I've never worked at a spaghetti factory. Although, a lot of our guys in the kitchen would consider it a spaghetti factory. It was one of the fine dining Italian restaurants here in Denver. But yeah, you're right. It's so interesting to think about like the hospitality background and kind of, how that correlates into yet another service industry, right? Because we're providing a service to somebody. But Stacey, it's so interesting to hear you say once you can kind of, take a step back and paint the full big picture, whether that's in healthcare and how that affects somebody's life or their health, or whether it's in real estate and painting the big picture of, like you said, getting the deal across the line. It's so interesting how these things kind of intertwine.
Yeah. No, I love that.
People are short-sighted, both in health and real estate, very short-sighted. So bringing in the whole big picture is huge in negotiations.
Yeah, super important. I was just gonna say, I was just kidding. He did not run a spaghetti factory. He ran a 5-star, Michelin, grade restaurant in downtown Denver called what was it?
Quality Italian.
Quality Italian.
Yes.
It's not nice. The spaghetti factory.
AKA the old spaghetti factory. It's code word.
Yeah. All right. Next question. All right. If you had to describe your investment style in terms of a movie genre, comedy, drama, action, etc., what would it be and why?
I'm so excited for your answer.
Yeah. Okay. So this is changing right now for me. I don't even know what I would have said before, but it's currently a mix between action and drama. And that is because a lot of people, if you go back and listen to my other older podcast interviews, I talked about so I bought in Tampa, because in Denver, my income is so little, I could buy one property here. I bought 4 duplexes almost for the price of what I would have got one single family home for here in Denver. So that was very intentional. But the second part of my story is I was a trauma nurse, flight nurse in Tampa. And so because of the hospital I worked at and the training I went through, I knew the neighborhoods and the areas and where drugs, gangs, crime, I knew it block by block. I bought specifically on the path of progression because I wanted some appreciation. I didn't realize that it would be as significant. My properties all doubled / almost tripled, some of them in value. And I was like super proud of that. The thing that's most recently changed though, and this will happen in many cities, is that as it continues to grow, crime, and it is kind of unique to Florida, crime can be block by block there, as opposed to most cities where it's like an entire neighborhood. There, it's a little bit more intermingled. But what happened is with the appreciation, they quickly got outpriced from many of the areas of the city. And so it started condensing and moving in ways that I would have never been able to consider. Most specifically, one of them moved directly next to my property. And so that's where the action / drama comes into play. I consider myself very lucky to have a lot of connections still in that area with first responders. So I found out from one of my tenants that they were dealing drugs in this unit directly across from mine. So I went as far as reporting it to an undercover narcotic unit. I tried calling the police multiple times. They unfortunately did nothing. I then got the information that they were actually squatters. So this is all recent in the past 4 months. So this is huge because Tampa, or I should say Florida, Florida just passed a law, the first one in the nation, to forbid squatters. And they have the right to forcibly remove them. This just passed literally the 1st of July.
Yes.
The issue is I am not the owner of the property. So they would not respond to my requests. So I skip traced the owner. She was completely unaware that it was happening.
Really?
Property management had not notified her that she knew it was vacant, but she did not know that anybody else had taken over. So they had actually ripped her doors off, and there was about 30 people living in this like 700 square foot unit.
What a shame.
Dealing drugs, as I mentioned. But I got a hold of her, and 2 days ago we had them all arrested and removed.
Yeah. All right. So, congratulations.
Yes. Thanks.
You know, I think
very exciting.
The aspect of like understanding a neighborhood, right? Like you're talking in depth about the neighborhood and the I don't want to say the culture, right? But you know, kind of what makes up the neighborhood. You know, if you're able to have an understanding block by block and use that to your advantage, it's so undervalued.
Yes, it is.
I was gonna say, I'm upset to hear that the owner of the property didn't know that there was. How long it had been vacant? It was a few months.
I think since May is around the time it started. Maybe April. Wow. Yeah.
Interesting. That's unfortunate that she was unaware. We had this other gentleman, Brett, on our show, and he talked about a group of gentlemen that could come and remove some squatters for you. I was going to offer those out to you, but what do you call them? The squatter gang or something like that?
Something
like they would come and just remove the tenants for you. But anyways, I'm glad it got handled by the police and it was all all taken care of. Wow. Well, that's exciting. That's really good news that's not in there anymore. Is she going to keep the property, or I mean, obviously there's probably some damage in there. I mean, they had to update it, but. Would you know what her plans are with the property?
So it doesn't sound like she's overly concerned about it, based on it being vacant not concerned. It's not, she doesn't care about the money the property is making her. I get the impression she is making enough money that it didn't matter because it had been vacant, like I said, since April or May. And there was nothing being done about that. I would not allow a vacancy that long. So so the fact that she wasn't concerned about that, but the fact that she has control over her property again, and they've been removed. I referred her to my property manager. So yeah, all good things.
Should we buy it? Should we see if it's for sale? Is it right across from yours?
It is right across from mine, but I honestly still consider selling this one for that same reason. Because like I said, with the compression of the crime, crime is something that I feel like in real estate people don't take it seriously enough. It can have a massive detrimental effect on your property and your risk of liability.
Or even your mental health as a owner as well, And I think Denver is starting to see a little bit of it as far as, what you're saying block by block, because we do have a pretty powerful gentrification or changing of the neighborhoods that are kind of pushing some of that into the sparse areas of Denver as well.
All right, next question. Share a quirky or unexpected item you've come across during a property inspection or a walkthrough.
So I don't have a really fun one here, but the biggest one that I can mention is I was under contract on an 8-unit in Midwest region. And so it's not super common for them to have full-blown HVAC, like central, I should say, AC. But this property did. And when the condensers stopped working, instead of replacing them like a normal landlord would, this elderly gentleman decided to cut holes through his walls and put in wall units. But then there was still the entire central AC with all the condensers on the property. Super unexpected. That is, I guess then I'm like, to undo that, you have to like fill the holes in the wall, get new siding. Like this was not thought through. Also, the poor families that were in these units, because the AC and then the heating is only in that one wall unit. And it was placed in the kitchen, which is where the entry door was. And then there's a wall off of the living room and then to their bedrooms. So there's no way the heat or AC was even getting to the rest of the bedrooms, the living room. So just super inefficient. I don't actually remember if he was paying electric, but if he was paying electric, that would be an even more stupid move.
Yeah, I'd love to understand the logic behind that one. We as property owners like to do things to our properties that are improvements. This one is kind of hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yes.
Wait, so you're saying you found that upon inspection, like you didn't know that was happening, and then you walked in and that was what was there? Wow. Okay.
Listed as central. Yep. Because it was there.
Technically, it's still there.
No,
it was there.
Yeah, that's definitely unexpected for sure. Wow, that's
also like too, just for the logic. If you're gonna do that, why not just do a window unit? Like, why the hole? Like you took the time and the energy to cut a hole in every unit's wall.
He was in a mood. He got that sledgehammer and that saw, and he just went to town. He was way too excited about it. That's why.
Well, you know, in this business, you would hope that he had a friend there by his side to kind of run some of these ideas by. It's just unfortunate that his friend was like, yes, absolutely. Cut that hole.
Let's do that. Yes. Yeah. We walked.
That's a good one.
That one.
Yep, that makes sense. All right, last question here. If real estate investing were a sport, what would your team's mascot be and why?
I am going to go with, and shoot, now I'm forgetting his name.
Jumbo?
Rocky. Rocky the mountain lion. It's the Nuggets mascot here.
Oh, sweet.
I'm not sure if you've ever seen him, but he's like, does all these acrobatic moves and just full of life, very animated.
He's constantly known as like one of the better mascots in the league, right? Gets awards.
I think in all sports, from my understanding, he's like in the Hall of Fame. So I'm going to go with him. Yeah.
Love that.
I'm going to go with him. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great answer. Yeah. No, I'm gonna have to look him up now, and we'll get like a little shot of him edited in here as well too, because I think that's important for our viewers to see.
I think part of it is my envy that I want to be able to do backflips like that too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, he's known for jumping off trampolines and slam dunking the ball, or driving a Harley onto the court. So I could totally see that being your retirement plan, Stacey. We'll get you signed up.
Thanks.
After she makes all this passive income, that's her full-time job now.
Let's go. Yes, I will be doing backflips when that happens. Yes.
I love that. That's funny. All right. Well, thank you for answering those questions, Stacey. Those were all excellent answers. Great insights into your investment strategy as well, too. So let's jump into some of these articles here. We got some interesting ones for you guys here today. Let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. A couple of hot topics here, if you will. So the first one is, do landlords have to provide AC? Here's what renters should know. So I like this title already, but let's dive right in. Let's give Aaron a shot. Take us through what this article talks about first.
Yeah, so basically what they're talking about, and I think it also correlates with heat, right? Like we're talking about central air, or we're talking about, you know, the conditions of the spaces you rent. You know, I think first and foremost, if you walk a property and, you know, it has AC, or you're told that it has AC or heat, and it were to break during the terms of your lease, of course, it is the landlord's responsibility to, you know, return the air conditioning or the heat to the status that it was when you moved in. I think what they're really focusing on here is it the responsibility of the landlord to provide AC if that wasn't discussed prior to moving in? You know, it's an interesting state to live in here in Colorado, because, you know, you travel up to the mountains sometimes during either vacation or on a trip. A lot of the hotels that are up there in the mountains do not have AC. They have fans. Mm-hmm. They tell you to keep your windows open at night. You know, it's typically about 20 degrees cooler up in the mountains than it is down here in Denver, but it's not super uncommon to see something without air conditioning. Now, I will say this, that, you know, in the past, we've had people who have totally agreed to move in to a unit, whether there was no heat or no AC, right? And either winter rolls around and now they're saying that they need a little bit more heat. You know, all of our units have heat, of course, but we just prescribe them to go to Home Depot, or sometimes as a property manager in the past, I've gone to Home Depot and picked up another little box heater, another little unit to keep in their room. I think you could do the same thing with an AC as well, you know, and just go provide that for your tenant and make sure they're comfortable.
Stacey, do all of your properties have AC in them?
Yes, they're all in Florida, so it's non-negotiable.
Oh, Florida is non-negotiable. Like you have to have AC. I think that's the same in Texas as well, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but here in Colorado, that's not the case. We don't have to. But I think you made a good point. If it's in the lease, then it should be there.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I will also say, so devil's advocate, I lived in a home, house hacking is so big here in Denver. I lived in a home where they split the single family home, top and bottom became each individual units. And it had central AC, which the landlord boasted as a massive perk. Except that he chose to run the AC off of the basement temperature. The thermostat was set down there. So that sounds great in theory, but the basement doesn't have natural light. So it was always very cool and dark. So running your thermostat off of that, whereas our unit upstairs had a ton of natural light, was always smoking hot.
Yeah.
And not having control of your thermostat is torture. So Aaron, to your point, I did go down those individual AC unit rabbit holes, and they are not effective. The only ones that are remotely effective, you have to have your window open for, which is not an option because we lived on a busy road. So I think just really disclosing those things up front is the key so that your renters understand what they're getting into.
Yep.
It clearly did not state in our lease that we were heating and cooling the home to the basement, because then over winter, it was the opposite. The basement was always frigid and we're being smoked out upstairs like we are living in a nursing home. So I think just being really honest and transparent about those things is the key in letting your tenants decide if that's something they want to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I had kind of the reverse story when I first moved to Boulder. I was renting a house just off Pearl Street. It was actually off of Walnut. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the downtown area, but it was walkable to the Pearl Street Mall. And it was actually this historic cottage, which was super quaint. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, but it came with a large yard. And when I first moved here, I had a very big Alaskan Malamute. So we were very excited about the price with the yard, and everything was exciting. But through the winter, there was only there was like a fireplace heating unit like in the middle of the living room, and that was it. And halfway through December, it actually broke, and it took about till February for her to get us another one. She did, however, provide us with a lot of space heaters and things, but we, needless to say, we did not re-rent. We only stayed there through our contract and then left afterwards. It was actually kind of a very interesting scenario because even the bathroom, because it was a historic cottage, you literally went outside. So when I got up every morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, I literally had to in the bathroom, there was no heat whatsoever, and it was literally like walking outside to go to the bathroom every morning. So I didn't withhold rent or anything. I just negotiated with her, and she hooked us up with heaters, like electric space heaters. But then our utility bill went up, so she kind of refunded some of that money. But kind of the opposite perspective, I guess, is what I'm saying. From the AC unit, it was more of a heat issue, here in the mountains. But
yeah. Sounds like your bathroom was cold enough to be an outhouse in the house.
Literally.
Yes.
Yeah, literally. It was like walking outside. But yeah. All right. Let's on to the next article here. All right. Can we see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
We're in. All right. How much can landlords charge for rent and security deposits in North Carolina? Now, I know none of us have property in North Carolina. Aaron and I have been looking at a couple of things in Charlotte and also Raleigh over the past couple of weeks, but we just thought this was an interesting one. Let's see here. Stacy, what do we think about this article to start off with?
Yeah, so I personally feel that, and I'm saying this from the perspective that I have low-income tenants. The long story short is I think a landlord should be able to charge whatever type of security deposit they feel is necessary for the risk that they're taking on. I am in the process of potentially evicting a non-paying tenant that my property management placed because she had such a low credit score. So she came on with the risk mitigation, had to have a co-signer. And for different reasons, she's just electing not to pay rent that are not within her right to negotiate. The rules in Florida state that you have to have a safe, clean home. And outside of no safety risks, the tenant is never allowed to stipulate when they do or don't pay rent. And my point of this is with her risk mitigation and co-signer, we still only were able to secure 1 month of a security deposit. Well, that quickly went away as the fees and the expenses compound. So in long story short, 1 month is just not enough in certain situations.
Yeah.
And if you're taking on that risk, you should absolutely be able to dictate how much you charge.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. In the past, it's kind of one of those things when tenants come to you and they're trying to get approved for a unit. Of course, you're running their 2.5 or whatever metric you're using as far as proof of income to qualify them to rent your space, right? But if they don't meet that, they don't meet your credit score requirements. I agree. You should be able to charge a 2x or a 3x security deposit based on how risky you think the tenant is that you're taking into your space.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that you bring that up because I think it's such an interesting topic because even on past podcasts we've talked about a lot of different issues and the juxtaposition from tenant to landlord, and I think on both sides, on the tenant side you've got squatters and people who will treat your property terribly, but also on the landlord side I always have to throw out there that not all landlords are created equal, and there are definitely some slumlords out there not doing great things to their tenants. So it's not a blanket statement across the board, and I love that you put out it's risk dependent because let's say that they don't have a job, but they do have a lot of cash, or let's say the credit score is low and they want to put a couple more months down. I think there's definitely enough wiggle room in there to justify if there is more risk the landlord's taking on. I think it's very justified to charge a higher security deposit. And I love that you point that distinction out, because it's not just that we're charging higher security deposits because we can, if there's justification behind it, with the, like I said, the credit score of the tenant or the job, the employment status of the tenant and their ability to actually pay. I think it's, makes it a little more secure and less risky if there is a larger deposit.
Perfect case in point, Stacy's story of, basically eating through that security deposit within, a quick short time is kind of exactly why I believe that we should be able to get a higher security deposit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I think, this article even goes on to say that, talking about who's dictating that, like, is it the city? Is it the landlord? Like, can there be restrictions on it? Kind of like here in Denver, we have those, I keep calling it a pet cap, but like you can't charge, more for a pet now as well too. And I think all of these are, nuances of the landlord that has to, understand the tenant and the risk involved, in the property. So I think this is it's interesting that it's in North Carolina and we all own, property in Denver, and also you guys in Tampa as well too. And then Aaron in Kentucky. But all right, let's jump into this last article because I'm pretty excited about it. And I feel like everyone knew it was coming. I mean, you guys both own property. You guys both own property in Florida. So here we go. The big issue of it all. Can we see the screen? Are we good? Yep.
Yes. Yep.
So active hurricane season in Florida could determine detrimental impact on home insurance. All right, Stacey, you're up first on this one because I know this is both no cursing allowed. We already talked about this.
Yes.
We're going to keep it civil. We're going to keep it civil.
No,
all right.
That's totally no cussing. This article to me is fake news. I'll just be honest.
Sure.
So understanding how insurance companies work, they diversify their risk by only writing so many policies within a hurricane-ridden area. So the fact that they are threatening the people that receive the insurance as if it's going to have a detrimental impact on us because of the hurricane season, that's not a me problem, that's a them problem. That's why insurance companies are forced to have so much in reserves and mitigate that risk, again, by only underwriting so many policies within that hurricane region. So this is completely fake and inducing fear in people for no reason. What I will appreciate about the article is that insurance in Florida is already in a detrimental state. And that is because of insurance fraud and because the insurance companies, they had the amount that they were forced to hold in their reserves significantly reduced. It used to be hundreds of millions, and now it's like 50, a fraction of what it used to be. And what started happening is they would pay out profits to the parent insurance companies, to their owners, and then they would just liquidate and not pay out the claims for the prior storms, prior, any issue that had happened. those claims just went unpaid. And so that impact did get passed along to people in the state of Florida receiving insurance. So I would say what needs to stop so that the detrimental impact doesn't happen to us is the ability for these insurance companies to liquidate and pass along those unpaid claims to other citizens of Florida. That's what needs to stop. The hurricane season, how bad, how anything is unrelated. They say that almost every year. Again, I definitely feel like this article is fear mongering a bit, but it wouldn't have a detrimental impact on insurance if they were held responsible for paying out claims the way they should be and not liquidating.
Before you jump in, Aaron, I just want to say thank you for claiming that it was fake news, and thank you for pointing out that it basically is just clickbait, because this is the real news, and this is why we have two people on here that actually own properties in Florida and can talk directly to the experience, because so much of this really is clickbait. And I just wanted to point that out before we went on. But Aaron, now you may go. You may.
Yeah, no, I just want to point out the fact that you kind of rely on the governor to kind of keep this on the guardrails, right? They're doing so many great things for people who do own property in the state of Florida. We just talked about the squatters and how we just took away their rights. And you would anticipate at some point the governor or some type of entity would step in and say, hey, we cannot operate this way because we are hurting consumers, right? I think there are a lot of people who took on a mortgage down there in the state of Florida who are probably either getting a higher insurance this year around because of some of this, or the other thing I want to point out is the 4-point inspection that happens in the state of Florida, and some of the things that are divulged to an insurance carrier that they're basing their policy around is kind of like an open book that could also hurt the consumer as well. So
yes. So I will say, devil's advocate, DeSantis did step in. So the first issue that caused the current state of insurance Florida, the insurance crisis in Florida, was that there was a caveat in Florida law that allowed them being like lawyers and consumers, to sue insurance companies way easier than anybody else, any other state, anybody. And so what that caused was that out of all the litigation against insurance companies in the entire nation, 80% was owned by Florida, 80% of the cases. So that is greed, right? So it was unfair for the insurance companies to be able to be sued that easily. And people were taking advantage. There were contractors that were knocking on doors and miseducating consumers and telling them they could just replace their roof when it didn't even need to be replaced. So DeSantis stepped in and he changed that in 21. So that significantly reduced part of the rate of the insurance companies liquidating, because there were 11, I think, up till that point. And then after that law passed, there was only like 2 more that ended up liquidating. But the part that still frustrates me is the fact that they can liquidate with unpaid claims while still making a profit. That's the gross part to me. And that's the part that remains unaddressed and gets passed along to the rest of the consumers. So to your point, I would like to see something done to that part.
Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, like you said, that they're not paying out on these claims and still showing a profit. Obviously, the consumer at the end of the day is the one who's going to catch the hurt on all this. Are there a lot of storms happening? Yeah, but ultimately, like you said, that's kind of on the insurance companies, and that's how we expect them to act.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't know. I won't name the company, but I don't know. I would encourage people in the state of Florida to do their research, because there are certain companies that are more notorious for not paying out than others. And there is specifically one that has a massive share of policies in the state that has been notorious for not paying out any claims or a fractional amount in the past 4 years. And they continue to seek out a strong share of the Florida market. And that remains to be disgusting to me, because if you're not going to pay out and accept the risk that you're taking, you are just trying to profit out of greed and not actually fulfill your requirement as an insurance company. So it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of education needed for people to protect themselves. I'll additionally just state, because I just learned this, I was firing that said company because I didn't realize how bad of a reputation they had, and I found out. And as I was moving over, I had insurance brokers literally write all of my policies are for duplexes and they're all tenant occupied. They wrote my dwelling coverage for half the amount of my property value, which is disgusting because that's what happened in Colorado. You can't rebuild when you don't have enough dwelling coverage, or it comes out of your pocket, 6 figures.
Yep.
They underwrote them as single family homes, which means they will only cover one new kitchen, one new HVAC system, et cetera, et cetera. So again, massive risk on me. But then additionally, they underwrote them as like owner occupied, which is vastly different than tenant occupied. Many different things that was, the liability coverage was 300K. They underwrote it at 1. And so if people aren't aware and you're thinking you're handing over your policy and that you're expecting the broker to match it and not double checking, it's discussing the practices that are being allowed within the state. And it's extremely scary to me for the families that may not have this knowledge and know what to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. And even to your point here in Colorado, I mean, we don't have to get off on another huge tangent, but about 2 years ago, we had some severe fires up here in Boulder where about 1,200 homes got burned to the ground. And that was a very similar situation where a lot of their insurance companies did not want to pay out. And I had lots of friends who own homes down there, lots of clients. And I actually had a really good friend of mine come to me and talk about, because he only had smoke damage. So his insurance covered like a cleanup crew to come in and do it. And they charged him $80,000. And he called me and he's like, Barney, is this a normal price that they would charge? And I'm like, I'm not really sure. And he goes, well, it doesn't matter because it was all covered by the insurance. And I was just a little shocked at how high that number was, but it was easily covered, by the insurance. And I know there was obviously some scam or some fraud going on there, but a lot of these people were really devastated up here in Colorado when these homes burned down, because a lot of people were underinsured, didn't know what their policy was. And we're just talking about regular homeowners, not even, landlords. And some of them were definitely rental properties, but I don't know. It was just a whole tough situation, especially because they didn't know how it started and how all that dragged out with Xcel Energy here. And it did eventually end up coming to find out that it was, I think it was a telephone pole that got struck. And then the high winds that day were just absolutely terrifying. But the whole separate issue. But this whole insurance is just, it's so tough, because when insurance companies don't want to pay, and these families in these homes are devastated, it's like, what are they going to do? And to your point, they can't even rebuild if it doesn't cover, and they have to come out of pocket, and they have to pay 2 mortgages. They still have to pay their mortgage, and then they have to build a new property on top of it. I can't even imagine. And plus the city of Louisville did not help them out at all. I don't know if you're familiar with all that, but they had to tap back into all the utilities. And then conveniently in Louisville, they also agreed, which was an interesting topic, because they had decided in the beginning of December, I think it was in 2021, right before these fires happened, the same month, they had decided that any new construction had to go through X amount of fire mitigation and fire resistant materials had to go into the building of the house. And I mean, I don't know if anyone's familiar with how much it costs to build here in Colorado, but it's roughly about $350 to $400 a square foot, and it can get up higher of that depending on where you're standing. So then to add tap back into utilities, which is another $100K on top of that. I mean, you're talking to build, a 2,000 square foot home. It's an easy another $1 million, even like if not $1.5 million. So it's just these numbers just start to add up, and these insurance companies, in my mind, are just it's so frustrating to hear these stories.
Yeah, totally.
I would say the biggest pro tip I can offer to people is that I think private insurance adjusters are the best, should not be kept secret to ever exist. So I think people don't fully understand how the claim works, but the insurance company is usually the person that sends out an adjuster. It is clearly in their favor to minimize the payout because they work for the insurance company. So what you should always do is hire a private third-party insurance adjuster to come evaluate. The mistake that people make is they don't realize they're going to need it until they're fighting with the insurance company months later, but they've already undone the damage and started repairs, started cleanup, started whatever. An insurance adjuster cannot help you at that time. They have to come initially. So always, you have nothing to lose besides that initial fee that they will charge for coming to take pictures, claiming, making the report. If you don't need them after that, then don't use them to fight, but they can fight that fight for you. They work in the insurance industry, so they know how to do that. Take my money. They're worth their weight in gold. So
Yeah,
highly
absolutely.
recommend always get that.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Love that. Love that. All right. Well, we've gone through our articles. Thank you for coming on, Stacey. I really appreciate you and all your insights, and really appreciate you being here. I know you had a busy year, and we had to sneak you on here, but we're very excited to have you. We're definitely happy to have you with all your insights and all the knowledge and wisdom that you brought to today's episode.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Aaron, as always, for being here. And
yes, sir.
If you made it this far in the video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and comment below if you have any questions, comments, or concerns on anything we discussed here today. But thanks again, guys. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you on the next one.